Howdy, folks. I'm back. It's been a while. Shadowlands is amazing, by the way. We're going to have a little talk about Sloot's interview with Ian Hazzikostas and why, personally, I think it's a bunch of bullshit, at least in some points. So, you asked about the launch. You know, it's been a pretty smooth launch for the most part. There are very few server issues early on, but engineers worked through them. Aces, right? There were some servers that just were not playable, and they were like so congested with so many returning players, they had to turn some shit off and like offer free transfers. The Great Vault Adventure system and other systems have some small problems. There isn't a huge fire to put out this time. I feel like watching it would give better understandings to this, but what I think he would probably be referring to is the weekly cache at the beginning of BFA and how moving away from legendaries having a possibility there, they fucked up the weekly cache and they told players, if you don't like it, well, that's because you're wrong. We're developers. We know everything. And then like a month later changed it. Covenants are an overall success. They aren't perfect. No one expected a perfectly even split. We're not talking about a perfectly even split. But in some cases where over 80% of a chosen spec is going in one covenant, you should probably look at that and allow us to just be able to swap covenants whenever and not have the power tied to it. That is the only problem with covenants, really, is having the power tied to it. There has been a lot of feedback across the community from people who found picking a covenant hard. Yes, you know why? Because they had to balance between choosing an ability they liked, with an aesthetic they liked, or choosing the best ability. Because that's a choice, and that's not a choice that a lot of people want to make. Personally, I am really, really hoping that I don't end up going Night Fae. I don't like Night Fae. I prefer Carrion. But Night Fae, if they buff it, could be better. Carrion right now is great in raiding and not the best for Mythic Plus, but if they buff Night Fae, it can be the best all around, and I really don't want that. Also, the potency conduit is unlocking. Don't like that. The fact that the Night Fae get their second potency slot weeks ahead of everyone else is kind of stupid. So you should probably change that. Changing covenants isn't that big of an undertaking. It's not. But returning to covenants it's annoying. It's annoying. No one's saying, "Oh, it's super duper difficult." It's just annoying. I feel like my dog's gonna be a little lonely. No regrets with the design so far. Yeah, fuck you. Give it a month. The team is keeping an eye on conduits, especially as the third soulbind unlocks. I mean, why would you really care at that point, right? Like, once you get the third soulbind unlocks, which shouldn't be happening until the end of the campaign, as far as I know. Who cares? You have a percent or two edge with ideal conduits, but it isn't the end of the world. Wrong. Wrong. If you have two, let's say, Windwalker monks, for example, and one of them has the coordinated offensive one, which is extra damage from your clones, and the other one has the spinning crane kick damage increase. That is a larger than 2% difference. You know that saying you have a 1 to 2% difference it's wrong. It's wrong. You know it's wrong. Come on, dude. Someone feels like there's only one soulbind that is viable for PvP, and that same one is the only one viable for raid DPS. The team wants to hear about it. We told you about it. You've had that feedback. At this point, like, you should have already heard this feedback. It was feedback in alpha. It was feedback in beta. You know that this is a thing. It's like, oh, there are 3 soulbinds for 3 different things. No, there's not. There's really not. PvP. Subtlety PvP changes and rogue buffs are coming via a hotfix soon. Yeah, but you should have already known about it. The team doesn't want people to get killed before they have a chance to react, but they don't want to swing the pendulum back too far the other way. They'll look at outliers of trinket and legendary combos and other things and tune them. Okay, Rex Troy, get back to doing your job then. Show the devs where they're wrong. Tanks. Threat should exist as a mechanic, but not something tanks should have to manage from minute to minute. As long as you're putting forth minimal effort to hit mobs, tanks should be able to hold them. You don't want threat to be so easy that a little bit of AoE damage is all you need to kite mobs from 90% to 0%. Which is true. It's true. Like, as a monk, kiting mobs is really easy. But you shouldn't be able to do it with just a little bit of AoE. Being able to trade off damage for survivability is an interesting choice. I really hope they're not talking about the GCD here, because that's not an interesting choice. It's not. It's not. Having tanks be number one in damage in dungeons feels wrong. Cool. Figure out why that is. Right? Don't nerf the tanks. Nerf the conduit that's causing it, because the conduits are what's causing all of this mega damage. They should be able to kill things in the world in a respectable amount of time. But, okay, buff monk damage by 10%, please. I know I'm probably playing it wrong. I don't have any of the conduits or anything for it, but please. Trying to pull away from the BFA situation where Tank's primary job was pumping out damage rather than surviving. It was only that way because of how Azurite gear and the fact that we overgeared everything. It's almost like you don't understand how a new expansion works. Miscellaneous. Legendaries can be socketed. That kind of sucks. Ugh. Loud sound entering the maw is fixed. Team hasn't come up with a design that would solve all of the problems Master Loot had. Yeah. Legion. The Legion raid loot. There are people saying, oh, well, I wouldn't trust you with Master Loot. Like, fuck off. Fuck off. Blizzard cannot tell me that they are better at distributing the loot in my group than I would be. They cannot tell me that if an item drops for me that is a downgrade because of these stats, that it is an upgrade in item level, so I can't trade it to someone who else who really needs it and would be a great upgrade for them. They can't tell me that because they'd be wrong. In organized guilds, the amount of control exerted over loot caused a negative experience for a large number of players, especially for trials. Bullshit. Bullshit. I don't know where you're getting your data from. Chances are a lot of them are bullshit, and you know it. The whole, like, trials need loot too. Guess what? As a trial, I got plenty of loot. That's because I came in on farm bosses. Although, I didn't come in on farm bosses, I actually came in on progression bosses, but in WoD, you were getting heroic gear every week anyways. I got my loot, bro. Like, trials get loot all the time. I've seen trials get loot. The only time that trials ever throw a fit is when they didn't get loot that wasn't meant for them, which is one of two situations. Either it was a downgrade for them, which they didn't understand, hello Nethian, or they came in on a boss and they were there for like 2 pulls and they died 5 seconds into the fight, and they got mad because Chad, who happens to be an officer, who also shows up all the time, who did, like, his job almost perfectly, who went through the 30 wipes beforehand, got the drop. It's better for me. No, it's fucking not. You'll get it next week. Gear keeps dropping. Getting people to use personal loot instead of master loot just wasn't going to happen through incentives. Why not? Why not? So you just wanted to push people to personal loot. So you wanted to take the choice away. That's it. If you don't get an item from a boss, now you can blame Blizzard instead of the guild and master looter. Fuck you. If you have a conduit installed in your forge, you should never see a duplicate. Wrong. If you just have one in your bag, so you can see a duplicate. There isn't a way to make those sellable without making them all sellable right now. Just make them all sellable. Do it. or allow us to exchange them for a different conduit at a lower level. For example, if I get a 171 conduit, but it's a duplicate of something I've already got, I can make it lower for a conduit I don't have. Or you can just make them sellable. Why can't you just make them sellable? What's the problem with that? Oh, people would just get all the conduits and sell them. Why? Why is that a problem? World bosses are a set rotation. Good. No plans to add more checkpoints to dungeons. That is shitty, by the way. It should be after each boss there's a checkpoint. That's just how it should be. Faction balance is something the team talks about a lot, but there isn't a solution to talk about right now. The damage was done years ago. Troll racials and Throne of Thunder should have been nerfed. A little bit before that. Faction balance isn't driven by power balance anymore, just by social structures. Okay, remove the faction gate. Just do it. How does Blizzard get players that went from Alliance to Horde to go back to Alliance? Buffing Alliance racials isn't the right answer, but it's a start. It's a start. Old raid tuning had a bug in the first week of Shadowlands for Legion content that made it harder as you level. Old raids might be a little harder at max level now, but part of that is from your stats going down as you level. Tune the raid! Tune the raid! Don't come up with this excuse of, oh, it'll get better once you gear up and get soul binds and it will extend what it was at the end of the last expansion. Fuck you! Tune the raids. That's not a solution. That's you admitting there's a problem there. Tune the raid. The team is happy with how gear has played out over the last few weeks, up the drop rate. It'll be interesting to see how people feel after the Great Vault. The team should do more with using Mythic Plus to provide rewards that aren't a direct player power. PvP participants have a system with lots of accomplishments, so Mythic Plus should offer something like that or more. I really like that. Do challenge mode rewards. Do a title, pet, mount, stuff like that. Tier sets will be coming in a later Shadowlands patch. The art is awesome. Return of class sets. That's the best news I've ever heard, man. I love tier sets. The old tier set system is a starting point, but the team wants to come up with something better. Items monopolized slots that they were in. Okay, have it where you can add a tier bonus to a slot. That might not solve a lot of problems, but it will solve the biggest problem. Tier sets mean a class-based aesthetic and a completion mechanic that will change your gameplay. Yes, there are ways to do this beyond just adding a 2 and 4 piece set bonus. There kind of isn't, but I want to see where this goes. Team wants to be conservative with changing legendaries. It will be a patch on the PTR, plenty of time for feedback. Give me a minute, guys. I love dogs. Where were we? Team is okay with where things are right now in terms of world quests. A lot of players can fill gaps and get more conduits. Yeah, in a sense, there are some really interesting trinkets that drop from world quests, by the way. Windwalker Monk, seeing that on use $3.99 first trinket drop, sexy. Graduating out of clearing your world quests every day is fine. It is. I have no real reason to do it. I'm okay with that. There should be something, reputation boxes, something else that would make world quests still feel relevant. Make reputation like guaranteed drops or something. You guys actually screwed this over by changing the way that we got contracts. Oi. Oi. No biting. No plans to make floor unlocks count wide right now. Maybe in the future. Why not? No plans to allow leveling in Torghast, but it is a cool idea. Kind of, I guess. Twisting Corridors is coming soon. The unlock is account wide, thank God. Twisting Corridors will be more challenging than what you saw in beta. You should be in epics before you get there. Okay, that's cool. I'm okay with not getting my Maw mount from there until like near the end of the patch. 18 floors is a long run. There is no true infinite mode right now as it ends at layer 8, but they might revisit this later in the expansion. You should. You should. Endless mode 72 floors was really fun to watch, and people were like, oh, streamers, it's the streamers were like fucking praising Torghast, and now it's terrible. What were they praising? Why was it so great? It's like, it was so great because what we got isn't what they were showing us. Oh, your paws wet from the floor, bud. Yeah, I know. Teeth. Team wants to see how Torghast plays out before they make assumptions and build things. Right now, the reward system is more like the Mage Tower. Work towards a single reward to show off. In the future, the team may revisit this. Don't add player power. If you have to add an item to it, add an item to it. I'd personally like rep at most. Most players still have a ton of content left in them all. Yeah, that's because of how you guys gate the content. You're like, you have this one area until you get to a certain rep. Then you have a second area. Then you get more rep and you have a third area. You okay, buddy? If I let you down, you're going to get into stuff, bud. Okay? If I let you down, you going to go out there and not whine? Good boy? Well, give me 2 seconds and I'll be out there with you, okay? Or give Daddy a couple minutes. Raid team is very happy with where tuning has landed. There were some bugs and hotfixes needed. It's still really powerful. Raids have always been tuned for certain item levels and endgame system progression states. Heroic has always been tuned for players with normal difficulty gear. In past expansions, Warforging and more widespread loot had people geared up for Heroic and Mythic faster. Yeah. They just want to slow us down, buddy? Huh? They just want to slow us down? Some of the adventure testing and tuning was using a wider range of unlocks. The team didn't pay enough attention to the first few week experience, especially the order that you unlock things. It'll be okay in the long run. Will it? Will it be okay? Kyrian is literally the weakest covenant in terms of the adventure team, apparently. I just now found that out. It's fucking insane. Some of the more challenging missions that scale with your levels, such as the Soul Ash ones, feel bad. The team may change them to be more static missions, easier version with less rewards that you can always beat, and a higher one that's more difficult but more rewarding. You give me kisses. Okay, you give me kisses. See, I'm literally 2 lines away, bud. Thanks for the feedback. Thanks for the chance, even after disappointing people in the past. Yeah, you better fucking say that. It's like, hey, thanks, even though BFA happened. Thanks for making the community what it is. The team wants to make your time in Azeroth as great as it can be. But you still tell us we're wrong about some things like Master Loot, don't you, Blizz? Okay, Geralt. My little witcher puppy. Want to say goodbye? You want to say goodbye? Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, it's time to go sleep. It's bedtime.